everyone. Welcome to Art Talk 167. Today we're featuring the photographer Dorothea Lange. So Dorothea Lange was an American documentary photographer and photojournalist, best known for her Depression-era work for the Farm Security Administration. Lange's photographs influenced the development of documentary photography and really humanized the consequences of the Great Depression. Lange was born in Hoboken, New Jersey, to second-generation German immigrants and grew up on Manhattan's Lower East Side. At age 7, she contracted polio, which left her with a weakened right leg and a permanent limp. It formed me, guided me, instructed me, helped me, and humiliated me, Lange once said of her altered gait. I've never gotten over it, and I'm aware of the force and power of it. Upon graduating from high school, she had already decided that she wanted to be a photographer, and she studied that at Columbia while also having numerous apprenticeships in studios in New York City. Post-Columbia, she landed in San Francisco, where she met an investor to back her to open her own studio. She met and married famed photographer Maynard Dixon that we actually featured in an Art Talk 3 years ago in September 2020. It's wild. Lange's early studio work mostly involved shooting portraits of the social elite in San Francisco, but at the onset of the Great Depression, she turned her lens from the studio to the street. In the depths of the Depression around 1933, some 14 million people in the US were out of work. Many were homeless, drifting aimlessly, often without enough food to eat. In the Midwest and Southwest, drought and dust storms added to the economic havoc. During the decade of the 1930s, roughly 300,000 men, women, and children migrated west to California, hoping to find work. On the left is probably the most famous of Lange's photographs, Migrant Mother. The description she wrote of her encounter with Florence Owens Thompson reveals that it left a deep impression on her. She says, I did not ask her name or her history. She told me her age, that she was 32. She said they'd been living on frozen vegetables from the surrounding fields and birds that the children killed. She had just sold the tires from her car to buy food. There she sat in that lean-to tent with her children huddled around her and seemed to know that my pictures might help her, and so she helped me. I knew that I had recorded the essence of my assignment. She roamed the byways with her camera, portraying the extent of the social and economic upheaval of the Depression. It's here that Lange really found her purpose and direction as a photographer. She was no longer a portraitist, but neither was she a photojournalist. Instead, she became known as one of the first of a new kind, a documentary photographer. Broadly, these migrant families were called by the insulting term Okies, as from Oklahoma, regardless of where they were from. They often traveled in old, dilapidated cars or trucks, wandering from place to place to follow the crops. The descriptions to each photo are poignant and straightforward. Lange was really interested in highlighting the individuals and the individual experiences of people at the time. Here is a lumber worker and his wife at a bean harvest. Her work was so popular that it's become part of the historic canon of this time in the United States. And as we look at her pieces chronologically, we can see other topics come into play besides the Depression. For example, this rally against the Nazi Party that was gaining popularity in Germany. Broke, Baby Sick, and Car Trouble, this piece showcases the sheer anxiety and distress of what life was like being without a home in the tumultuous landscape of the Depression. As World War II developed, Lange's focus changed. Here is a photo of children at the Wheel Public School in San Francisco, pledging allegiance to the American flag in April of 1942, prior to the internment of Japanese Americans. In 1941, Lange received a Guggenheim Fellowship, and the following year, she recorded the mass evacuation of Japanese Americans to detention camps. Here's the Mochida family before their relocation to an internment camp. And in her classic portrait style, Lange was able to capture the strength and resilience of the Japanese community. The fellowship and commission came from the government, yet the resulting photographs were so controversial that they were actually impounded for the duration of the war. and Lange wasn't able to see them until about 20 years later. They create a subtle yet startling picture of the racism practiced by the American government against some of its own citizens. Lange passed at age 70 from esophageal cancer in 1965. 3 months after her death, the Museum of Modern Art in New York City mounted a retrospective of her work that Lange had helped curate while she was still alive. It was MoMA's first retrospective solo exhibition of the works of a female photographer. And posthumously, Lange was inducted into the International Photography Hall of Fame, the California Hall of Fame, and the National Women's Hall of Fame. Her photos can be found in numerous history books, and her documentation of the Depression and of World War II have really defined and solidified that period in American history. Thank you.